I'd like to call to order the, not even sure what the name is anymore. I'm going to call it City of Muskego for lack of a better name at the moment. Landfill Standing Committee at 5:08 p.m. Would the clerk please read the roll?
Sure. Annalise Smith.
Present.
Patrick Murray. Here. Mark Slocum.
Here.
Michael Calling. Here. Harvey Schweitzer.
Here.
Recording Secretary Scott Krager. Here. Alderman Eileen Madden.
Here.
Greg Burmeister.
Here.
Roland Kiefer.
Here.
Dan Olzenberger.
Here.
Chad Siegel.
Here.
Joel Spear Jr.
Here.
This meeting has been posted in accordance with Wisconsin open meeting laws.
Thank you. Open forum. See anyone here from the public? Compliance officer report.
Everyone should have in front of them the 2021 the annual compliance, annual audit summary. Sorry.
Oh, you want to turn your mic on?
No. Everyone should have in front of them the 2021 Green for Life Environmental Emerald Park Landfill Year-End Compliance Officer Report and Audit Summary. The entire report with all the audits and so on is in front of the chair in a binder for record keeping, and a digital copy has been presented to the Department of Public Works for record keeping. It's a 7-page document, but rather than read through it, I thought I'd point out the really interesting components of this last year, and that is odor control. I kept in the dates from previous years because it made for interesting comparison. In 2020, there were 168 complaints over 128 separate days. That's, phenomenal amount of complaints. It's the highest value that the landfill's ever gotten. In 2019, it was 113 complaints over 65 separate days.
Same issue. If you took the complaints out for odor, how many other complaints do you have?
I don't have any other complaints other than odor complaints that were called or emailed in.
Okay. Just wanted to make that clear that it was an odor issue that we were dealing with, and it was not the rest of the landfill going down a rat hole.
And there were only 24 odor complaints in 2021, and those were over 18 days. We also haven't had an odor complaint at the landfill since the end of February. February 24th of 2021, Chad identified an issue at one of his vaults and sealed it, and that it seems to be the end of the odor problems. The rest of the summary goes over tonnage received, equipment used, area, types of daily cover. There were no action items this year. No liquid waste was received, and nothing out of the ordinary.
Questions, comments on the annual report? Joe, do you have anything else for us?
So this is also the end of the first quarter. First quarter is always a slow time for the landfill. The weather conditions aren't good for construction. They aren't good for repair. There's ongoing erosion on the north side of phase 4, which is due to vehicular traffic. The gas techs use a ATV vehicle, which does do a certain amount of grass damage if it's back and forth. It'll be repaired when weather allows them to get up there and place soil and seed. All of the activity in the landfill has been in the new cell, which is named Phase 7 Southwest, for the last 2 months. When they do have soil, they've been putting it up on top of Phase 7 North and South, which is making for a rather impressive intermediate cover. The more cover they have, the less chance of gas release and so on, and at some point they'll have a capping project.
I didn't catch the last few words.
And at some point they will cap it. When Phase 7 is going to be open on its west side for an extended period of time because Phase 7 Southwest is up against it. It's an overlay. But if they cap over the top, it will, and over top of phase 3, it'll significantly reduce the amount of liquids coming into the site from precipitation. So that'll be like the next drop off of liquids and next potential change of gas volumes.
Okay. Anything else?
No, sir.
Status of projects. Chad, I'll kind of let you. Or Dan, if you'd like.
I'll take the lead and Chad can fill in.
Okay. Just check and see if he's still awake.
Clay excavation, like I said, in the past, that's typically been tied to, landfill projects, cell construction, those types of things. There's no cell construction, no final cover project currently scheduled for 2022. So there'll be no site-driven activities per se that will result in any kind of massive clay extraction or excavation from the facility. We do have contractors, though, that will reach out to us if they have a need for clay backhaul or whatever project they may have in the area. So there may be some minor clay excavation from primarily our future cell construction area. So it would be in the area of the new cell, the 7 Southwest cell area. But other than that, no real significant activities along those lines for 2022.
Okay.
Our MMSD project continues to, I think, run well. I just looked, our April runtime at the gas plant was over 93% with 74% delivery. So when the district is willing to take our gas, we're willing to deliver it to them. The only other thing I think I'll add there is we will have a little bit of downtime from a delivery standpoint here in the month of April. We have another media exchange. We have to do H2S reduction on the landfill gas prior to delivering to the district. And that media requires roughly an annual change out. It gets spent as the raw gas is processed through the system. So we will be doing a replacement of a couple of media in a couple of our larger tanks here, probably in the next couple of weeks. So that will affect our delivery a little bit. But other than that, the things I think are going well between ourselves and the district at this point.
Okay. You mentioned that things are fine as long as the district is taking the gas. Is the district refusing to take gas, or?
Well, there are times where they will limit the volume that they will take from us for whatever reason on their end.
They don't tell you.
Those communications back to us are not always always what we would hope. But yes, there are times where, we could give them, well over 2,000 SCFM of gas, and for whatever reason, they take 1,200 or 1,500 or whatever. I can only assume it's probably because of maintenance issues on their end. Maybe they're only running a certain number of units on their end and can only take so much gas. I don't know. We don't always know. So when they don't take it, we're flaring it though. So it's not like it's not being extracted from the hill. It is, still being managed and still run through the on-site flare.
Okay.
Electronic recycling, really the residential drop-off area. Again, things are fine there. Every 2-week pickup on the electronic recycling seems to be keeping up with the volume that comes in. Residential drop-off area, probably the biggest thing there is the yard waste. We did a pretty significant grinding operation at the end of 2021 and into January of 2022, where we pretty much ground up anything we had on site. that created quite a bit of material. Now, a lot of that material is now being taken off-site, and it's actually being used to help with the composting of some of the chickens that have been affected by the bird flu.
Oh,
So a lot of that material is being hauled off-site to that location where they're doing some of that composting effort. So it's going to help kind of make some room, because we were actually pretty full with the grinding that we did late last year and early part of this year. So that I was amazed at how much material we had on that pad, but a lot of that material is being used off-site.
I'm curious, how are they doing the composting for the chickens? Are they doing big trenches like the DNR used to do for deer, or they?
The little bit I've seen, and maybe you've, John, I don't know if you've seen any of it, but looked like they had a pad kind of set up, and then looks like they were bringing in a lot of material and setting up the windrows, and I assume then they were probably turning or setting up those windrows and introducing the chickens as part of that. I don't know.
It's 100 pounds of compost per chicken carcass. It's a huge carbon requirement. Emerald Park is giving away your compost.
Pretty much.
Other GFL sites are actually tipping the contaminated eggs. The moisture in the eggs is too much to maintain in the windrows, so they're not able to compost those. But I only bring this up because at the moment, Emerald Park is not taking eggs.
No. We were asked, but we declined. So
So the issue is not the birds, it's eggs?
both. Yeah.
But it's not an issue at the site.
Right.
No.
Okay.
100 pounds of compost per bird?
That's the protocol. Of course, they're doing it per so many pounds of chicken, but it uses a lot of carbon for the process, and they're accelerating it with moisture and extra compost. But then that compost tea is a contaminant, so that's where my knowledge of it falls apart. I don't know what they do with the pad or how they treat it or clean it or if they have to disinfect it. The CDC says that the avian flu is not a threat to us, so as long as that compost tea doesn't get to where any other bird species has access to it, I guess it's okay. That's the argument. That's why the eggs are being disposed of, is because they want them buried in the landfill and not in our septic system and so on, where maybe it's not going to affect us, but we're still putting it back out in the environment. A landfill can take 1,400 tons, right? There's a max value of eggs that can be disposed of in the landfill, and it's 1,400 tons.
1,400 tons per what?
Per site.
Per site?
Per site.
And I think Mallard is even less than that.
Mallard is only
think
given
they did.
permission to take
I
5.
think they took 500, right?
500, sorry.
Yep.
So 1,400 tons, that's it? You close your doors?
1,400 tons, you can't take any more contaminated eggs.
No, but that's it. You send those guys down the road to someplace else.
Correct. There is a potential possibility of running into a disposal issue for eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's those kinds of things that end up with eggs being along every country road.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully they'll throw it in the microwaves.
Okay,
Okay. All right. Well testing, well testing for the private residence was completed in December, and the reports were sent out to all of the individual homeowners in early February. Talked with Frank Pergini at ESC, and things went well. There were no issues with any of the results from the wells. I think there was one homeowner that might have done a chlorination of as well, and they did a resample in that situation. But other than that, everything else came out and was reported as clean for each of the individual well homeowners. So The one challenge that, and I guess this has been out there is we actually have a hard time coming up with 35 residents to sample, as people either don't return the information or say no.
Yeah.
So Frank will.
Results in some people getting tested every single day.
Right. So, you know, Frank will actually sometimes go out to the people that reply no and say, hey, you know, this is good information to have as a homeowner.
Yeah.
So he will kind of flip some of those people to a yes in those situations. But it's interesting that from time to time that we've had a hard time getting to that number, the 35 number. But
Well, it gets back to the residents not trusting government
right.
for the reason that government in the past hasn't been very trustworthy on saying, hey, let us do this.
Sure.
We just need to do this information and then we'll be gone. And
Right.
no, they turn around and use it against you. And so
Yep.
that's
Okay.
why.
Plan modification, there's really nothing into the department right now. We're pretty much ready to move forward with the tank installation. We had actually a pre-bid meeting this morning. So between the leachate storage tank and some gas system work, those will be kind of the main construction projects for 2022 at this point in time. So.
You mentioned that there was no plan mods into the department.
That's correct.
Okay. Are you working on any? Do you have a couple on the back burner?
Nothing right now. Probably the only thing in terms of submittals to the state right now, I mean, this is kind of the annual report time of year, so we are working with our consultants on the various annual reports that come due to the department. I mean, we are also doing some work as it relates to the future expansion. There's a feasibility report on file, submittal on file with the state, but we'll need to do a addendum or amendment to that. So that will be something that will probably go in the second half of the year would be my guess. But nothing, I guess, is really scheduled to go in anytime soon.
Has
So.
that feasibility report been provided to Joe?
I think the original one, right, Joe, you would have?
JSA reviewed it, I want to say in 2008 when it came out. And I'm sure the addendum, the DNR hacked off 54 some acres on the original feasibility study for the full footprint. And Jay Warzinski when Jay was involved, was slowly piecing his way back into that full amount. So I don't remember off the top of my head where it stands now, but there still are acres that, with a good argument, the site might be able to acquire for additional footprint. But the actual phase 8, there's enough there for another 15-year extension. Yeah, so I mean, I would say their feasibility is intact. All they have to do is put forward a plan of operations. There's going to be a size discussion because they're getting 1,500 or less at the moment rather than the 2,500 when the feasibility study was written. So there are definite changes to be made, but there is enough land identified as landfillable to have another expansion.
That would be the last expansion, potentially, or not?
Not speaking for the state.
Okay, let me ask this question. That expansion, when added to phases 1 through 7, how many cubic yards does it bring it up to?
I thought it was another 7. No, it was more.
Total number?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I realize that's the number I should be worried about, but that site is so geologically set for landfill placement that as long as they keep putting forward decent feasibility studies and so on, there's no reason that there can't be more expansion. There are guidelines for going beyond volume and so on. The site doesn't have any existence of slides. It has stability, and it has the clay that's required for that facility. It is a site that with good faith can continually expand.
And you're ignoring the power lines or what?
No, power lines get relocated.
Yeah, but the expansion we're looking at right now takes us up essentially to those power lines. Yep.
And to be honest, Dan's a good person to discuss that with because he's moved power lines twice for Metro. Once by accident and once when it was needed. But really the only limitation is what the state puts on it. So to use Metro as an example, Waste Management made a commitment to the city to have a green corridor. The Waste Management set their final limit by giving that green corridor to the city of Franklin. They have landlocked themselves. Emerald Park does still have acreage around it that it can expand into, and the power lines are not a limitation. If there was subgrade power lines or utilities that traveled behind it and so on, that would cause an issue. Those are much more difficult, much more expensive to relocate. And the wetland shape, as long as no new wetlands are identified and so on, that also, kind of sets that limit.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, and then I guess really the last thing is the property protection sociological payments. Nothing to report on the property protection. The sociological payments did go out in the middle of January. Where we dropped the ball a little bit was on getting some of the 1099 information out to folks. I apologize on behalf of the company I work for in that situation. We believe we've got it corrected for people. I know it was not as timely as many folks would have liked, and I apologize for that. Hopefully, we've got our situation in order so we won't have the same situation next year. But we received numerous phone calls from homeowners saying they wanted to get their taxes completed. They weren't issued on time, and then they were issued incorrectly. So I had a number of issues to deal with at the corporate level. So, but as far as I know, as of last week, everything has been corrected and has been issued. And we also have copies available at the site if for some reason people needed to come in and pick them up. So, okay.
Okay. Household hazardous waste.
All right, so, there we go. The 2021 annual report has been included. And basically by the end of the year, we were back operating with the 3 permanent sites and continuing to see usage rise back to more normal levels. The new site that was turned on at the end of the last year, I think there are always some bumps in the road. Some of the biggest questions we had were regarding signage and just the general location. People hear, oh, the HHW site is back open, not realizing that there is a hazardous waste site open, but it is either across the street or down the road from the one you had previously used. So we've got signage up now, and we've worked through website verbiage and things to make it very clear that while there is a site, it is different from the one you may have used in the past. And so the 2022 report just has January numbers, but at the next quarterly meeting, we'll start to see the numbers from the Muskego site be on that report because they're not open in January. And I've heard that there haven't been any hiccups since we've reopened for the 2022 season.
Are there any issues with people across the street thinking that site is also intended to serve them?
We have not seen or heard of any issues at this time.
Just want to make sure, that's all.
Yep.
Dan? Dan, I have a question for you. The HHW site, from your perspective, is that working fine?
Yeah, we seem to be partnered up pretty well, I think, with all parties involved. So seems to be a pretty effective use for that building. So I guess we're pleased with the operation so far.
Okay. Anybody else have questions, comments on household hazardous waste? Unfinished business, discussion on permanently moving the future meetings to City Hall. Somebody want to start this off?
Why don't you start, Mark? Because, I mean, most of us have already stated what we thought.
Okay.
Or somebody make a motion.
Okay, make a motion to move it to City Hall permanently.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Murray, seconds.
Well, I had another wonderful experience trying to get here today. So I had a bridge out in the past, and the police officer directing me to go west, young man, someplace. And being bold, I cut through the business park and says, I want to see if I can get through now. And I got as far as City Hall, thank goodness. But it seems like there's all kinds of things always happening around City Hall that want to keep us from getting here. And the other thing is, I like being out at the landfill because it gives me kind of a feel for what's going on out there. Yes, it's just a snapshot, but it's the general conditions. How are the roads coming in? Are we tracking stuff out? I know other members living much closer see that on a much more regular basis, but it gives me a feel for what's going on. I get very little, if any, feedback from the east side of the road, but sometimes just another peak is helpful. It's not a deal breaker either way, let me put it that way.
Yes, sir.
Our next meeting is going to be at,
Make sure you're into the microphones, guys.
our next meeting is going to be at the facility, is it not, for the tour? So,
Yes.
That's later down the agenda, but you are correct.
all right, so minimally, we'll be there once a year. It's not like we've completely forgotten about going out there to see what's going on. And I think at that tour, we will have the opportunity to learn a lot more what's going on at the facility than just showing up on a January night when it's already dark. And the other two possible meetings there, when we aren't doing a tour, we're simply driving on the gravel road to the office. I think we get enough exposure to the mountain. And for those who use it, they probably see it a couple times a year. It's not like we'll never see it if we don't show up 4 times a year for the meeting. I prefer coming here by all means, and I presume there are others.
And for me, it's, we try to keep all our meetings open for the public. As you know, we're doing everything is live right now. Anybody can tune in and see what's going on at the landfill at any given time. That can't be done at the landfill. It's more open for the public without having to actually come down here and join us. And I know there are occasions, because we are a city, where there might be some inconvenience, but I think that same thing happens on 45 and 36 on a regular basis too.
Go ahead, Joe.
Just to be clear on access, I can't quote the verse, but the host agreement does clearly state that members of the committee have access. I just can't remember if it's whenever they show up or if it's a 24-hour notice, but they do have pretty open access to the site whenever they choose.
Yes, sir.
Good, bad, indifferent?
To me, I sort of like it here. I go by the landfill every morning and every night, so I do know the conditions there. If I see something, I'd be more than happy to stop and talk with Chad, and it gets taken care of, you know. So I sort of like it here for the fact that it is open, and if anybody's got concerns, they can hear what we're talking about, you know. So it, like I say, it's not a deal breaker. I'd have it there or here, but I sort of do like it here. So, okay?
Yep. Alicia?
Happy to go wherever. I think I like the hybrid model where we would, during maybe the ickier months when there are more weather concerns, being here, but then with that July meeting with the tour, being on site there. And then, of course, Joe's reports on the monthly updates of the site are very important, so.
Okay, so your preference is to have them here, except for the tour?
Correct.
Obviously, I mean, pretty hard to hold a tour from here.
It makes no difference to me.
Okay, I think my point has been that I would prefer them at the landfill. I see no big benefit to having them here, and I would say that sort of notoriously, the technology at City Hall seems to fail just when you need it working. And so to bank everything on that, I don't think is a fair position. But given a choice, I'd much rather have it at the landfill.
You do have to, with a motion, we do have to.
Go ahead.
Didn't ask me that, Mark, but I would prefer it here, and I live as close to the other site as you do. But I prefer it here. I agree with people that say we get to see the place, we make the tour. That's a lot more beneficial than driving up to that little house. That's my opinion.
Okay.
The only thing I got to say is that if we're going to have them all here, that the members at least sometime besides July, maybe just make a trip around the landfill and just see what it looks like. I've been sitting on a lot of committees, certain town board committees. Members they'll sit on the committee, but they won't go out and look at the job. And that's wrong too. So just hopefully everybody takes advantage of just taking a trip out there every so often, and if they see a problem, or even stop in and say hi to them, you know? So.
What is done across the street? Anything? I mean, obviously I know the meetings are there, but do the people?
Our meetings have been held at Franklin City Hall due to this pandemic, but I see in the future that that's going to be moved back to the landfill.
Okay.
The training structure that the meetings were held in was demolished last year. So it probably won't be back to the landfill until additional space is made. There isn't a room for that big a committee at the landfill site.
Who are you referring to?
Metro.
Oh,
Didn't you ask
See-
about across the street?
GFL had their building
No,
destroyed?
no. The Waste Management Metro had a training structure, and that's where the meetings were held. And the structure had a flooding problem and had to be demolished.
Gotcha. Further comments, discussion? Roll call vote?
All right. Annalise Smith,
So to repeat the motion, it's to move them, correct?
yep, the motion was to move it to here, second by either Greg or Patrick, I believe.
Patrick, Murray, yeah.
Okay.
So then I'd be an aye.
What?
Aye?
Aye.
I didn't.
Oh, did you second or did you want to talk earlier?
Right, I just had a comment.
Oh, then so Greg was, Greg's the
Okay,
second.
I'm sorry.
Yep, no problem. I heard two people, so I just wanted to. Okay, hold on. Yes for Annalise Smith. Patrick Murray?
No.
Mark Slocum?
No.
Michael Colling?
Yes.
Harvey Schweitzer?
No.
Alderman Eileen Madden?
Yes.
Greg Burmeister?
Yes.
Roland Kiefer?
No.
I believe that's it.
No. Do I have Mike?
No, I had Mike already.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah. it's
I'm
five
sorry.
to four.
Is there anyone else? I mean, all the rest of the people are not on the committee. They're just
Yeah, they don't get vote.
1,
What?
2, 3, 4.
Would that come out?
5 to 4, then we stay here, except for June.
Really, I got 5. I got 4 to 4.
Well,
You said you had 9. You had 9?
Nope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? There's only 8. Am I wrong?
Oh, hold on.
3,
1,
4,
2,
5.
3,
Never mind,
4,
we are 4
5,
to
6,
4.
7, 8. 4 to 4.
8 is right. Motion
4.
fails. So it will stay like it is, which means we will have to agree as a group to when we want to move back down to the landfill. But that is sometime yet out in the future. It also is dependent upon the landfill and their facility and availability and all those things.
We have to figure out how to record it.
Pardon me?
It has to be recorded. We have to figure out how to do that if we go back.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, well, we used to be able to record it before in the past, so I'm assuming we can do it at least to that level. The other thing is, I think it's probably possible to establish a Ethernet connection between City Hall and that building there, but that's something I would want to talk to the landfill about. That may be a possibility.
Okay.
Further comments, discussion? Other business, review payments made from the committee funds. There were 2 sheets attached to your agenda. One was a balance sheet, one was a detailed ledger sheet.
Yeah.
Questions, comments? Okay, confirm next meeting date. Right now, it's listed as June 22nd at 4 o'clock for the tour at the landfill.
27.
27.
27th? What did I say?
Second. Definitely a 7.
Okay. Is that still on for everyone, especially Dan and his people?
Yeah, that should be fine. Yep.
landfill after the tour?
Well, I guess
Yes.
that's what we need to decide. Then do we have to wait till 5:30 or do we have it at 5? If it's going to be at the landfill.
Well, it says approximately 5.
Okay,
But that was to drive back here.
okay. First of all, the meeting starts at 4 o'clock,
Correct.
okay? The 5 or 5:30 is a tentative time for the tour to finish so that we would be able to get to whatever facility we were going to use to continue on the meeting. The meeting starts at 4, and that's why anyone from the public can also go on the tour. Now, the thing that we've always asked for is if anyone wants to, please let us know just to make sure we have enough vehicles to be able to accommodate everyone. And in the past, that has happened. We've had people say, yeah, we would like to go on that tour, and the landfill has provided the vehicles to accommodate that. But the meeting officially starts at 4 o'clock. Okay. At that meeting, we can also talk about whether or not where the next meeting is going to be.
We are under the assumption that the June meeting, the tour and the sit-down portion will both be at the landfill. Yes.
Correct,
Okay.
as of right now. Any further discussion, questions? I'm sorry, Mike, I keep forgetting to look out at you out there to see if you're, well, just to see if you're raising your hand or, doing something.
So if I start getting costs to get, so we can have the meeting down there, does the landfill committee needs to look at the invoices before we pay for it, or how does this happen?
Okay, tell me what you're referring to.
The iPad stuff that we have, we don't have anything up to date. We run out of power on it. I don't have it. We no longer will have live like we do now. So if we want to continue in that process, I can get you a cost for those things. But is it been in the past that the city pays for this?
In the past, was an agreement with a previous mayor that the city would pay for anything associated with that, along with the generation and production of the minutes and everything. That was not something that the committee asked for. That was something that the administration said, this is what we'd like to see, and this is what we will do in exchange. From the committee standpoint, we didn't have a money issue. We had enough funds to cover that on an ongoing basis. So I think in terms of what's needed to provide for meetings down there, tell me what you think it's going to take in terms of hardware to be able to have a meeting that is held there but broadcast through the city hall. Obviously using the internet, that would be using a VPN.
I will check with IT and I will start getting you costs.
And I will have some discussions with Dan to see if they're even open to doing that.
I think to Scott's question, though, I think the committee has to approve those funds before he moves forward on that. I mean, he can get the cost, but he can't just...
No, the committee would normally have to approve those funds. And typically what we do on things like that is you make a motion to approve up to a limit that the chair, vice chair can sign off on. Because it becomes difficult to get the committee together to approve a $1,200 expenditure as an example.
So, okay, my question is, are we doing this a little prematurely if we don't know how we're going to record the meeting? I mean, we don't even know how this is going to be. It's got to be a public meeting, and if we don't know, how we're going to do that there, then maybe we should take a step back at least until we figure that out.
I would agree. How could, you don't know the expense. So I think we've taken the vote to move the meetings prematurely.
Well,
I think we need a little more information before you say yes or no. I don't know how you can do that once you voted.
Can I make a motion to reconsider?
no. Sorry. The next meeting,
Yeah.
you know how that works. We'll get something figured out between now and then. We've always been able to record the meetings no matter what the situation has been, so we'll get something done.
Okay.
Okay, there's no citizen comment time. I'm sorry, communications and other business?
Pat had some.
I noticed we didn't have approval of last month's, or last meeting minutes.
The minutes, they're not available.
They didn't get finished.
Oh, okay, that's different than not finished and not available, or not quite the same.
Okay.
They
Okay,
are not completed.
okay, that's fine, it was a question.
Yes, Joe?
I just had one thing for the end. I'm traveling the week of May 15th. I will not be in the U.S. during that week, so I've engaged Anna Krajic, an ex-employee of JSA, to act as a subcontractor and do the audit that week. And I got it approved with the landfill, so it shouldn't cause an issue.
When was the last time she was at the landfill?
Today.
She was? Okay.
I brought her out today as a refresher. We're actually still using a fair number of the forms that she generated originally, and I slapped her with the document I gave you today so that she's up to date.
Okay. Because I think the last time she was there was a year ago.
Before this, the last time she was there was March of 2020.
Okay, so it's more than that.
Yeah.
And my concern is the amount of physical change that takes place. You can't just say, call her up and say, hey, we'd like you to go down there and do an audit, because it's too different.
No, we're making sure she's well prepared for it.
Okay. Comments, discussion on that? Okay. Any other business, communications as allowed by law?
As long as Joe's not going to the Ukraine, I'm fine.
Maybe he's taking some personal time.
I'm going to see landfills in the Bahamas.
Perfectly fine.
And I really am going to go see landfills.
Upon hearing nothing else, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned at 5:56 p.m. Thank you.